Thank you. We're now moving on to item 12. Sorry. The following statements apply to both the budget report and the agenda at item 12 and the council tax report at agenda item 13. In accordance with the Local Authority Standing Orders England Amendment Regulations of 2014, a recorded vote is now required at budget setting meetings. Members are reminded that if they are 2 months or more in arrears, they must disclose the fact and not vote on any item to set tax or any decision which may affect its calculation. Item 12, budget, medium-term financial plan and capital strategy for 2023 to 2024. Could I ask Councillor Phil Cowan, Executive Member for Finance, Revenue and Benefits, to present the report and then propose and quote the recommendations, which can be found on page 193 of the agenda pack.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, colleagues, good morning again. Now, we have before us today the papers that set out this council's proposals for the budget, medium-term financial plan and capital strategy for the financial year 2023 to 2024. This is the culmination of a process that is familiar to us all, and I'm able to confirm the proposals before us today have been reviewed in accordance with the standing orders of the council as follows. The draft proposals were circulated for public consultation on the 23rd of December last year. The draft proposals were debated at Cabinet on the 9th of January 2023 under agenda item 9. The draft proposals were presented to the Overview and Scrutiny Commission on the 26th of January for review. And following that review, the final proposals were tabled under agenda item 12 at Cabinet on the 6th of February 2023. Thus, the proposals before us today have been consulted upon, have been debated and discussed at both Cabinet and the Overview and Scrutiny Commission. And during this rigorous and transparent process, no amendments were forthcoming. As a result, colleagues, the proposals before us today are unchanged from those that were drafted at the end of 2022, with the exception of changes to settlement and business rates income, which has previously been reported. Now, how have we arrived at the proposals before us today that enable us to produce a balanced budget? At its heart, budgeting is an exercise in balancing known and assumed, or sometimes unknown or anticipated variables against a set of choices that we make. It is the choices element within that equation over which we have discretionary control, and that in turn sets us on a course of action to establish the balanced budget. This process is what all of us do in one form or another in managing our households and private lives. But what places the council's budget setting on a different level from our domestic models are the nature of the choices that we as councillors make, the complexities and uncertainties of the income streams, the monetary values involved, and the statutory or core services that we're tasked with providing. Your council has established key overriding priorities or choices, in addition to the statutory services against which our budget must provide funding. These are inspiring communities, thriving places, Breckland 2035, working smarter, and Breckland Cares. Following the trials and tribulations of the pandemic, the impact on residents and businesses alike, and the additional load placed on officers and members as a result, all set against the backdrop of world events, has given the budget setting process this year particularly sharply honed focus. Many authorities around the country have found themselves in challenging positions. Their finances have been stretched and in some cases compromised. But I am pleased to announce today that as a result of the detailed work undertaken by Team Breckland, this council can propose a balanced budget that allows us to support both the statutory services that we're tasked with providing and the discretionary services that we have determined are essential for the residences and businesses who live and work in Breckland. Moreover, this budget is not only balanced for the year ahead, but also for the following year. And this is an achievement of which we can all be justly proud. The papers before us today set out in detail the ways in which the budget has been established. Appendix A sets out the general principles behind the budget and identifies income levels, fixed costs, the tax base, the budget preparation principles and assumptions, forward projections, and reserves and balances, all set against a risk profile. It also sets out the consultation timetable, value for money requirements, and addresses the capital estimates. Appendix B lists the summary by subjective heading, and Appendix C identifies the tax base by parish. Appendix D1 sets out the proposed fees and charges for the wide range of services provided by the council, and Appendix D2, the planning fees. Appendix E identifies the reserve statement, and Appendix F addresses the sensitivity analysis against which our various assumptions have been made. And the proposed capital strategy and programme is set out in Appendices G and H. This is a positive budget statement and places Breckland Council in an enviable position. The budget proposes that the Band D tax level rise to £108.63 per year, or a shade over £2 per week. But some 76% of Breckland homes are within bands A to C, and thus the majority of Breckland households who pay the full amount of council tax will pay less than £1.86 per week for the statutory services and, importantly, the discretionary services that your council provides. Colleagues, when I addressed overview and scrutiny on the 26th of January to present the draft budget, I advised that literally at the 11th hour, we would receive additional business rates funding to the value of £500,000 in the coming year and £1 million in the following year, 24 to 25. As we look ahead at our fiscal position beyond then, you will also be aware that we face significant risks to our budget as a result of the likely business rates reset and the fair funding review. From a practical standpoint, this additional funding was confirmed after the statutory consultation period closed on January the 22nd. And therefore, we've determined that the most prudent course of action in relation to this announcement is to post the additional income to reserves, thereby allowing time to determine how best to utilise such a windfall for the benefit of Breckland residents in the coming years. I am indebted to the hard work of Team Breckland as a unit who've worked together to drive this draft budget and now the final version. The fact that we can deliver a balanced budget in these straitened times whilst providing all of the core services to which our residences and businesses are entitled, and at the same time provide a wide range of discretionary services designed to help and support the most vulnerable in Breckland, is testament to the prudent fiscal policies that this council follows. This budget continues this philosophy, and I commend it to you. Moving to the recommendations, they are as follows. Number 1, recommend to full council that the Breckland revenue estimates and parish special expenses for years 23-24 and outline position through to 26-27 as set out in Appendix B and E are approved. Number 2, that the capital estimates and associated funding for 23-24 and the outline position through to 2032-33 as set out in Appendix H are approved. Number 3, that the fees and charges shown at Appendix D and D2 for adoption on 1st of April 2023 are approved. Number 4, that the council tax is set at £108.63 for a Band D property in the year 23-24. This is a £4.95 per annum increase on years 22-23 level. Number 5, that the medium-term financial plan at Appendix A is approved. Number 6, that the capital strategy at Appendix G is approved. Number 7, that with effect from 1st of April 2024, subject to the necessary legislation receiving royal assent in time, the long-term empty property premium for council tax is applied after 1 year, and the second home's council tax premium of 100% is applied. Number 8, that the retail, hospitality and leisure, or RHL, non-domestic rate relief and the supporting small business NNDR relief are approved for years 23-24 in line with government guidelines and criteria. That the following approach is adopted for Council Tax Support Fund. 9A, to apply the required reductions of up to £25 to all current local council tax support claimants to their years 23-24 council tax bills in line with the scheme guidance. 9B, to maximise the use of the funding by providing an additional top-up payment of £12 to all current LCTS claimants to their years 23-24 council tax bills. And 9C, to retain sufficient funding to provide additional section 13A brackets 1 brackets C exceptional hardship payment funding and use this throughout year 23-24 to support the new LCTS claimants with the same one-off reduction to their 23-24 council tax bills. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Could I have a seconder for that proposal, please? Councillor Crane, thank you. Any questions? Okay, Councillor Burt.
I have a slight technical observation in that the agenda pack does not reference Appendix G or Appendix H. And since these are actually an integral part of the recommendations, you might want to maybe modify the recommendations to refer to a page number instead.
Bear with us, colleagues. I just need to take councillors apologise. I need to check the paperwork. Okay, I think there may be a discrepancy between the hard copy provided and the copy that's available through mod.gov. Alison, I don't know if you're able to clarify.
Thank you. Yeah, the appendices are as appendices in the agenda, but there isn't a heading on them. So we could amend the recommendation to include the page numbers as well as the appendix letters. I'm just scrolling through to try and find what those page numbers are, sorry.
So I understand the page numbers 234 and 248. Alison, if you could check those as we have the debate, and we'll confirm those when we come back to the recommendations. Thank you, Councillor Burt, for bringing that to the attention.
Are there any questions? Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Cowan for your introduction. I do have an amendment which I would like to propose, which I'm hoping we may be able to share on the screen rather than circulating paper copies. Just pause while we do that. Okay, thank you very much. So, if I may, Chairman, we have all seen the decline of our high streets, both locally and nationally. It is important that we recognise the value of those spaces, economically, culturally, and yes, recreationally too. Breckland Council has a crucial role in supporting our town centres, a role in making them places that people want to visit and, importantly, spend money. To be places that people want to visit, there must be shops worth going to. When I look at the empty shops in Thetford, they are so often long-term empty properties. Large corporations that do not seem to care that they are empty, sucking the life and vibrancy out of our communities. When myself or others inquire about rents, they're often at levels unaffordable with terms that do not make sense. It's tough running a small business. I know myself as I run one, and through that role, I speak to dozens of small businesses every month. There is talent in our district. There is creative thinking, there is entrepreneurialism, but forces too great for individuals to overcome are preventing progress. We need the council's backing. This proposal, which calls for the creation of a new £1 million town centre investment fund, uses Breckland Council's soon to be more generous capital reserves to purchase shop units in the district, allowing affordable rents and terms to be set, specifically to support local entrepreneurs and small businesses. With an estimated return of around 4%, this proposal would make no difference to our revenue budget. Rents would be matching the returns anticipated from bank interest, and it will provide new opportunities for people to trade. And this council will own the capital asset. The new support with paying the rent of 6 months for businesses moving into town centres, announced recently the last few weeks, is of course very welcome. The new pudding shop in Thetford is a really great example, but it is short term, it's not sustainable. What happens when the grant runs out? What happens if the rents change? Why are we as a council prepared to pay off other landlords' mortgages, but not look to own such assets ourselves? We need to be bold. This amendment also looks to continue the Market Town Initiative scheme. No, not with new murals and clocks for Dereham, conveniently kicked into the long grass until after the May elections, but with facilities that the public quite rightly have been campaigning for and recognised as a barrier to people visiting. Amenities such as new public toilets can be supported by this fund, with a hope that town councils will join and match fund where possible. I'm not a member of Cabinet. I am a member of Overview and Scrutiny, and I did propose changes to the budget that were voted down on that occasion. I am, however, a member of full council because I suspect the response will be, oh, we've only you'd have told us sooner, Terry. I am a member of full council, which is why I'm proposing this here, and I would urge colleagues to support this amendment. Thank you.
Could we have a seconder to that proposal, please? Councillor Terry?
Yes.
Yeah. Are there any questions or comments on the amendment? Councillor Wilkinson.
I don't know if somebody can answer the question. If businesses are not in these shops now, and if Breckland owned the property, what would be the asset? Would the property be an empty property be an asset, or would we'd have to have a business in for it to be an asset?
Chairman, if I may, Councillor Jeremy has the right to reply at the end of the debate and can address that question at that point.
Councillor Borrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on the face of it, this looks like a very good idea. And I say on the face of it because I'm not sure it stands up to scrutiny. We do have a plan for capital receipts, and we have a policy with the council about the allocation of that. So for full council to make a decision about the allocation of this money without reference to what else and the proper processes would mean that this money might, instead of being used for housing or green initiatives or leisure provision in one of the market towns. So for us to make a decision here today without going through the full process and looking at what else the capital receipts could be used for managed, I think would be irresponsible for us, because actually the law of unintended consequences says, well, okay, on the face of this might be a really good idea, but actually the money is now not available for something else. So I'm also slightly concerned because anybody who does own an asset, they want to get a return from it. And if the rent is too high, then there's going to be nobody in it, so they're going to be getting no return. So it does question, is Breckland going to be letting these from below market rents, in which case the return wouldn't be as specified. And actually what Breckland has done is to support new businesses with help with their rent to get them going. It's a far more sustainable long-term solution using a far less amount of Breckland's money and far less risk to the local council taxpayer, and also supporting local businesses in our market towns, which I absolutely do. So I would not be supporting this motion for the reasons outlined, but I do support our high streets and the centres of our market towns. And I think Breckland should continue to do that. Thank you.
Councillor Sam Chapman.
Lovely, thanks, Chairman, and thanks, Terry, for your impassioned support across all of our market towns. And I think we alluded to it earlier that actually through our UK Shared Prosperity Fund that this council is already doing this with £250,000 worth of funding for this scheme to tackle this very problem. And it's working with those landlords and businesses, both existing and those who want to move and grow in the district, to have that much bigger reach in buying those units which are available, giving that leg up and making those businesses sustainable for themselves. So I think the premise of where we started this scheme back in October, and some of those things are still coming through. We've had 37 expressions of interest, 9 of which have been eligible. 4 have already received that funding. Putting in effect, you've commented about Holy Moly Crafts in Swaffham, the DSB Tool Station in Swaffham, and Amiga Computing in Attleborough. 4 examples of that work this council is undertaking. So I think it's really important that where we are today through the existing budget, which has been presented by Councillor Cowan, particularly with that, what he referred to as a windfall unexpectedly through business rates, is that we don't allocate that today, that we continue to move forward, continue our focused corporate priorities and strategies for the council, review the success of this activity moving forward, and if suitable to do so, continue to work forward with those businesses, working out what their needs and demands are to make sure they're reflecting that support in all of our high streets and our fantastic rural communities. And as I said earlier, it's about giving those businesses a leg up and helping out, not giving that necessarily that direct assistance by owning an asset, because I think as others have already commented, that capital position, we've got other challenges which members have already alluded to, in which they wish us to accelerate some of that net zero activity or provide and improve leisure provisions within our communities. That is a limited resource and budget. We've got to make sure we're getting our biggest bang for our buck. So whilst we're doing activity now, Councillor Jeremy, I think we need to review that moving forward to comment on the success, and therefore we have the ability as we move forward to draw on existing funding in those reserves to allocate if this scheme is suitable as you proposed today. But I think it'd be inappropriate to go with your amendment as suggested until we've got that data set and the evidence of the success of the scheme we launched in October.
Yes, I would. And Councillor Chapman-Allen has summed up the situation very well. And that's precisely why in the presentation I've given you today, I've specifically said that the most appropriate form to use this windfall is to post it to reserves. And it will be for the council going forward to review our reserves and our spend profiles and exactly what priorities need to be addressed at that moment in time, either next year with the $500,000 or the year after with the $1 million, to determine where the best value can be obtained, whether that's actually to spend it on something, whatever that something might be, or to invest to accumulate and return a further return. So I understand precisely what Councillor Jeremy is talking about. But at this moment in time, we haven't had an opportunity to debate and discuss where we might be going. Hence the proposal to post it to reserves, because it's the reserves which can be used in the fullness of time following that close scrutiny. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Atterbury.
Chairman, I support this motion. And actually, the reason I support it was I took the trouble to ask officers for a copy of the recent levelling up bids that went into government. And there's a lot of evidence in there that's been produced on behalf of this council by its consultants as part of the Market Town Initiative. And we do have a problem in the town centres. We have a problem with high retail vacancy rate. Our high retail vacancy rate is at 15%. With perpetual vacancies, 3 years or longer, running at 8%. It says in here, not only do the town centres put off prospective new residents, but the lack of leisure and learning facilities for young people is a barrier for families moving into the area. The lack of facilities for teenagers in particular is also frequently mentioned by current residents. And I could go on because there's other quite damning statistics, I would say, about where we are in our town centres. I think it comes down for me as a question of priorities. What is the what if our residents were in here, what would their priorities be? I know there's been a lot on social media and in the printed press about a large asset that has been an ongoing issue for this council for a number of years, and we're looking to sell that large asset. But I think we've now got to the stage where residents actually want us to do something more tangible that's going to help the high street and the market towns. And I think this fund could do that. I do think the town councils, and I say all of the town councils, could probably do a little bit more, but they could probably do that if we put some seed money in and see if we can draw down some match funding from those town councils as well to help. I know we've got the Market Town Initiative. I support the Market Town Initiative in terms of we want to regenerate the marketplace in Dereham, for instance, but I think this goes further. I think, as I understand the motion, if we purchase some retail units, we still own the asset in much the same way that we purchased Barnum Broom Golf and Country Club and we owned the asset. So we would still own the asset, putting the money in there, but then we would have the ability to manage those assets in the town centre and hopefully make a difference in that. So I fully support this. And I think I'm right in saying that this has been gone through by officers. So, you know, I think we can do it within the existing budget. I think we've got the evidence here to say we really do need to up our game in the town centres, and I think we should, and I wholeheartedly support it, and I would urge others to do so.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Just briefly, I support this amendment, sensible amendment, and obviously concur with the remarks that Councillor Attwell has indicated. I'm all ready to take action if both councils will step up to the plate. I'm good at whitewashing over things, but I'm not very good at artwork, which has also been in the media. And I know that residents will benefit, those both visitors and others, for coming into much improved toilets, both in location and size. And I know that this council doesn't do toilets, unlike North Norfolk. But I think certainly all the councils could work together, certainly with Dereham and with Breckland, and that would give one tangible benefit to the area. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins.
Yeah, I've noted, Chairman, thank you, that the amendment mentions the improvement of toilets in towns, and they've mentioned there Dereham and Swaffham. I'd like to make everybody aware, or remind everybody, that there was a toilet lavatory bill put through Parliament, championed by myself, and it was put through Parliament by Elizabeth Truss MP, taking the business rate from toilet buildings owned by town and parish councils. Now, I asked in government for that to be ring fenced, that money, specifically for keeping toilets open and fit for purpose. Now, if the town and parish councils haven't picked up on that, then I think they should be responsible for I think we should put pressure on them to make their own toilets fit for purpose with the savings, using the money they saving on not paying business rates on the bill.
Can only be one speak? Oh, we can only speak one.
Okay, just to clarify, I think Councillor Attwell was looking to speak. As pointed out earlier, unfortunately, Councillor Attwell, you can speak one to each amendment or motion. If there are no further questions, it would come to Councillor Terry as seconder for the original motion, and then to Councillor Jeremy for the final right of reply. Apologies, that was an oversight.
Thank you. Since the 2011 Porters Review, much activity has centred on facilities management, like crime and grime issues, which is welcome and beneficial, but is unable to tackle underlying structural problems in our town centres. We still see chronic vacancies, poor quality occupier lineups, tired environments, and overall poor customer experience in our towns, making it impossible to attract the investment needed for improvement. Some of our town centres are now caught in a vicious cycle of boarded up shops, declining attractiveness and falling footfall. Regeneration is a major challenge. We believe there are innovative ways to tackle the problem. With the right investment, our town centres can be simultaneously reinvigorated and made more resilient over the long term.
Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to address some of the points that were raised. I fully appreciate that I don't expect to come to full council budget meeting and table an amendment that will be accepted. But I do like to propose ideas that others may go away and ponder and maybe come back at a future date, having looked into it. And of course, entirely attribute where the idea came from. Just to answer Phil's point, this isn't proposing to use the windfall of business rates or revenue money. This is the windfall from the asset sale using capital money. So it'd be part of the capital programme. It has been checked out, and in answer to Councillor Borr, it is entirely affordable with the current plans. It is something that we can decide today, although I fully appreciate others may want to take more time to think about it. Of course, I've been thinking about it for months, but you know, if that's your wish to do that, but it is absolutely something that we can do today. As far as I know, Sam, we are as a council paying the rents of people to trade effectively. What we're not doing is looking at securing those assets and sort of pinning them to the local community by investing in them ourselves to buy the capital assets. That's the key difference with this programme. And I think it goes back to Councillor Wilkinson's first comment. Why are these places empty? Why are large corporations content to allow them to sit empty for long periods of time? I think we, as Breckland Council, know our district best. We know our town centres best. We know what might be achievable in terms of a fair and reasonable rent and fair and reasonable terms. We're already engaging with potential businesses because they're applying for the money for rent. Why aren't we taking the next step and saying, actually, we've worked with you, you are a viable business, we've assessed your business plan, and we have an asset that we would like you to rent from us. That just seems to be the logical next step to our work. So as I say, it is something that we can deliver today. And agreed to. So I would like to propose the amendment and look forward to it being developed over the next 12 months.
We will now move forward to take a vote on that amendment. It will be recorded. Okay. Right.
Thank you, Chairman. Could I ask members whether you're voting for, against or abstaining from this amendment? Councillor Ashby? Councillor Askew? Councillor Attewell? Councillor Bambridge? Councillor Burt? Councillor Borrett? Councillor Bowes? Councillor Brindle? Councillor Bushell? Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen? Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen? Councillor Clark? Councillor Clausen? Councillor Cowan? Councillor Crane? Councillor Dale? Councillor Dowling? Councillor Duffield? Councillor Dygan? Councillor Hambidge? Oh, he's gone, sorry. Councillor James? Councillor Jeremy? Councillor Kiddell? Councillor Kittle-Morris? Yep. Councillor Kybird? Councillor Land? Councillor Martin? Councillor Monument? Councillor Morton? Councillor Nairn? Councillor Nunn? Councillor Plummer. Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Suggett. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Terry. Councillor Turner. Councillor Webb. Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Wilkin. And Councillor Wilkinson. 10 for, 29 against. No abstentions.
The amendment has been defeated. We'll now move on to the
Questions. Back to the substantive.
we are now going back to the substantive motion.
Apologies, Councillor Lamb, could I just speak for a second with Mike? Thank you. Just to confirm, as the First Amendment was unsuccessful, we revert back to the substantive recommendations that were made by Councillor Cowan. We then open it back up for further debate questions, or I anticipate, as has just been indicated, a second amendment. So, Councillor Land, if you wish to make a second amendment.
Yes, I would like to make an amendment, please. Could we have this one on the screen, please, as Amendment 2? Council, I won't rehash the same argument about disabled facilities grant as I made at the previous full council meeting. I thought we had a good debate and there's clearly broad support for DFGs. I'd go so far as saying likely unanimous support. I mean, who wouldn't support people being able to live in their own homes independently, and who wouldn't support people leading more fulfilling lives? I'm pretty sure we all support improving the quality of life for some of us and most vulnerable residents. And not just older residents, as many assume with DFG grants, but all ages, including children. I was grateful for the words of support, both before and after the debate last time, from all members, including Conservatives. But the previous motion to add £100,000 to the DFG budget in this current financial year was defeated. Despite some additional funding, we're still in an unacceptable position. As it stands, I cannot possibly vote for this budget. I'm forced to table this amendment. At this moment in time, there are 96 applications that have been approved and costed, and a further 60 that are waiting plans and costings. That's 156 people who have likely been waiting for quite a while, been assessed as needing and confirmed as needing support and fitting the criteria for DFGs. The only thing standing in their way at the moment is money. The estimated cost to implement these assessments is 1.5 million. Unfortunately, in the budget papers before you, the council is only allocating 1.3 million. We're starting off this new financial year not even allocating sufficient money to complete the cases that have already been assessed. We're not even thinking about the more than 300, yes, 300 cases where assessments are still waiting to happen. So my amendment is very simple. We add £200,000 to the DFG budget in the 2023-24 financial year to ensure every person that has been assessed as needing adaptations gets them in the new financial year. That additional money will be taken from the new homes bonus allocation for next year, which would otherwise be contributed to the inclusive growth reserve. Yes, the budget before you adds to a reserve. At this point, we don't need to, rather than helping people who've been assessed as in need. I think we should think about that for a good moment. I would ask you to move the amendment.
Can we have a second for that amendment? Councillor Wickerson. Any questions? Councillor Banbridge.
Yes, thank you. It is a clarification comment really on disabled facilities grants. This council, like all other district councils or most other district councils, administers the disabled facility grant on behalf of the government. The money for that is central government money, an allocation is made. We have in this council always managed to spend a good proportion of our disabled facility grant. This year, because of efficiencies made within this council, we have spent all of our money and we have spent it rather early. I, along with officers of this council and other cabinet members, including the leader of the council, have been in contact for several months now with ministers of the Crown in Westminster, using our MPs and direct contact to try and achieve a greater funding for that from central government. And I believe that this is where we should be. I look for you really to support us in pressuring ministers and in pressuring my MP, your MP, to attempt to get more money for Breckland Council. I believe we are probably the only council that have already spent all of their money from this grant. So it's something, in fact, we should be proud of. It's a good news story. And I do feel strongly, because it's not just members of your ward, it's members of my ward, and indeed members of every other ward who are suffering from this lack of funding. But we have done quite a good job, I think, as a council. Thank you.
Councillor Atterwell.
Yeah, very simply, and thank you for those comments, Councillor Banbridge. But the fact is, yes, we may have spent all the money, but we just don't have enough of it to do the job that's needed. Clearly, if we've spent the money, that's because there was a need, and the need is outstripping the funds that we have in the pot to do the work. And I think you're acknowledging that whilst every pressure is brought to bear on government, and I'm sure yourself and the leader are doing that behind the scenes, we have a situation here where this £200,000 could make a difference very quickly to some very vulnerable residents who need our assistance. This could make a huge difference to them. I think £200,000, looking at our budget, is not a sum that we can't find in this budget. Absolutely no, we can. I think it's really important. I think while we look at some of the other nice to have things as a council, this is something that's really important. Fundamentally, first thing we should be doing is how can we support our most vulnerable residents? And I fully support this amendment. I don't think £200,000 is a large sum of money for this council to find. It gets on with the job in tandem with still trying to get government and bang their door to provide some additional funding. And I appreciate you and the leader are doing that, but this would help the issue immediately in April.
Councillor Chapman Allen.
Thanks, Chairman. So just to confirm, obviously this budget we would be voting on today would come into force on the 1st of April. To confirm to colleagues that as of the 1st of April this year, our new allocation arrives from central government. Hopeful that it is more than we got last year. We will have on the 1st of April 1.329 million as we got last year. As you've heard already, Gordon and I are lobbying for that to be increased. I acknowledge an extra £200,000 will go some way to deal with that, but let's be mindful that we didn't spend all of our allocation as a first past the post on day one, week one of that financial year. It was across the whole of the allocation. Acknowledge that that did run dry at the end of this financial year. However, as I said earlier, I think it's appropriate, and picking up your comments, through our Inspiring Communities work, Roger, that we continue to undertake work to support as many residents as possible, in which is our discretionary position to do so, whether that's through domestic abuse, mental health, rural isolation, and therefore £200,000 for a small district such as us is a lot of money in my mind. And therefore, I think it'd be prudent for us to look at the opportunities as we move forward for the new council as they come in at the start of May of this year to work out where that £200,000 would be best placed. Why? If the scheme which the council acknowledged last time with that handyman scheme is paying dividends, actually that should be continued moving forward with that £200,000 to expedite that type of work of grab rails, ramps, etc., which normally and traditionally would come out of the DFG funding. If, however, we've highlighted that funding isn't as large as we would hope it is, and that we draw that funding down as we have this year, then I think it's the opportunity for that council then allocate that £200,000 at that moment in time. I think it'd be inappropriate today to allocate that money whilst we don't know what the risks look like, and we acknowledge that we will be receiving 1.3 million as our hopeful benchmark as per last year.
Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you. I entirely disagree with the comments from Councillor Bambridge. What you're effectively saying is it's not our problem, it's the government's problem. It's their responsibility to fund this, which I agree with. But you've obviously got more faith in them than I do, because we have an allocation for the next financial year of £1.3 million in the budget. That's been confirmed. The costed figure for implementing everybody that has been assessed and accepted is 1.5. So we are consciously adopting a budget that we know, if you vote for this budget, adopting a budget that will not meet the need that exists at this clear moment in time. We're not going to be able to complete everybody that's been assessed and costed to the tune of 1.5 because we're only allocating 1.3. We are purely hoping that the government may turn around at a future date and say, here's some extra money to get to that point. In addition to that 1.5, we still have 300 people who have not even been assessed. They have absolutely no chance in the next financial year of having their adaptations implemented because we're not even budgeting enough for the ones that we have assessed. So I'm not prepared to vote for a budget that says that we're not even going to implement the ones that have been assessed. I'm not doing it. We have a responsibility to the vulnerable people in this district. I know from personal experience how important these adaptations are. The money that is being proposed to fund this has been described as a windfall. We weren't expecting this additional money. It's completely come out of thin air, tabled at scrutiny, extra money that wasn't anticipated. There is not another need for this budget at this moment in time. We are simply putting it into reserves. I'm not prepared to vote for that. There is a clear and pressing need to get on with these adaptations. You should vote for the amendment.
Councillor Webb.
Thank you. Okay, through my past experience on the housing portfolio, I totally understand the pressures that Councillor Bambridge has been under, with the team being very, very efficient in their service, with occupational therapy going through quickly through the COVID cases. And I know that he has been very, very, along with the leader and myself, pushing the door to get more money. I also know the fact that the team has actually kept some money back, nearly 200,000 for priority 1 cases. These are the cases that need urgent adaptations. They are the people who are dealing with those cases. They know that they need to keep that money back for the urgent ones. The handyman scheme, yes, it really, really helps to do grab rails, that side of things. So glad we've done that. But I can assure you that Councillor Bambridge, I know the leader, and I know myself, I've got a meeting a week on Monday with individuals to try and put pressure to get our amount of allowance given to us increased. So I just wanted to say that we're not doing anything, you know, we're not just sitting here on our hands. We do realise that there's an issue here and we're doing our best to address it. Thank you.
Councillor Borrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to support the efforts of Councillor Webb and Councillor Bambridge because this isn't something that should be funded from Breckland council tax. Basically, the government has given a direct grant for this piece of work and Breckland is an agent of the government delivering this service. So you know, we could say that, well, the ambulance response times aren't great, which is perfectly true. Breckland should be helping to contribute towards the cost of ambulances in Breckland. other issues, this is no different in terms of that. It's about saying, what is it fit for us to be using council tax money for when the responsibility for funding that service rests elsewhere? And I think anybody suggesting that we should fund the ambulance service from Breckland, and this is no different. But I do think there is a compelling case for central government to be more clearly appraised as to the need of this particular service, which I think is excellent. And I really do support the Disabled Facilities Grant. I think it is a vital part of our overall social care responsibilities for government generally. So I would support the work that the leader and the cabinet member for health are all doing in pursuing this. But this isn't the way to solve this problem. The way to solve this problem is to continue engaging with central government. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Wickerson, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I apologise if some of some of what I've got to say has been a bit repetitive as a result of the conversation that's happened. But I would like to respond immediately to the thought that the government are going to come to our rescue. There's no guarantee in that. And the numbers that I've got here would indicate that without that government support, we will not be able to continue to help the certain residents in Swaffham. And I take the comment made by our leader in his his report today, and which says he quite rightly highlights today our commitment to those in need in our district. This proposed amendment is a further opportunity to demonstrate that commitment. However, I will now present what I had in print previously. I apologise for repeating any words already eloquently presented by Councillor Land in his proposal, but would remind Council of the essential need for this service in not only assisting the individual resident to return to his or her home to live independently, but the wider picture of the impact of our intervention on the increased availability of much needed hospital beds. The pressures on our housing team are ever increasing, with 176 grants completed in 21-22, but 214 already completed in the first 3 quarters of 22-23. Current inquiries are averaging 15 a week. In addition, the average cost of each grant has risen from £7,000 to £9,000. With only £197,000 remaining in the budget for 22-23, we are now only being able to consider priority 1 cases to fund those who have been waiting longest or have the highest need. Plus, we have 302 applicants waiting on occupational therapist assessment and a further 60 where we are currently completing the results of such assessments. It is therefore clear that the current figure in the 2023-24 budget of 1.3 million, we are severely underfunding this vital service to our Breckland residents. We already have 1.5 million allocated for this period, 800,000 already approved, plus 700,000 on applications about to be approved. I would therefore urge councillors to agree to the proposed amendment and provide our housing team with the necessary resources now, not wait for the government to come to our rescue, to at least be able to provide a much needed and important aspect of our responsibilities as a council. Thank you.
Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd respond to Councillor Borrett's straw man argument about ambulances. We're not asking for ambulances. We're asking for help, additional help that's already available. Otherwise, I would also observe that this isn't an either or situation. I support you, Councillor Banbridge, in your efforts to get money, and anybody else who would do that. So it's not as though we don't support you getting money. We really do. We want the money for the people that need it. But I do feel if that bears no fruit, we should step in with money that's available. And what we're asking for in the end is considerably less than the cost of a house. So I would ask you to support the amendment.
We'll now move forward for a recorded vote.
Councillor Ashby, Councillor Askew, Councillor Atterwell, Councillor Bambridge, Councillor Burt, Councillor Borrett, Councillor Bowes, Councillor Brindle, Councillor Bushell, Councillor Marion Chapman Allen, Councillor Sam Chapman Allen, Councillor Clark, Councillor Clausen, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Crane, Councillor Dale, Councillor Dowling, Councillor Duffield, Councillor Dygan, Councillor James, Councillor Jeremy, Councillor Cadell, Councillor Kybird, Councillor Land, Councillor Martin, Councillor Monument, Councillor Morton, Councillor Nairn,
No, against.
Fourth, again.
Councillor Nunn, Councillor Plummer, Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Suggett, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Terry, Councillor Turner, Councillor Webb, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Wilkin, and Councillor Wilkinson.
The motion is defeated. Or the amendment is defeated. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a third amendment, if that could be put up on the screen, please. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I've only got 3 minutes, so I'll be brief, which is unusual for me. This is about the Breckland Bridge small sites, and I'm sure you all know that that features in Appendix H in the very comprehensive appendices by Councillor Cowan. The proposal is to pause, at the very least, pause the Breckland Bridge small sites proposal for 2023 to allow for greater levels of consultation with ward members, parish councils and local residents. Whilst I have a well-known and declared interest in the sites in my own ward, which now number 7, I feel that the current proposals are being rushed with inadequate levels of consultation. The council risks forever, and while it's the residents, losing much valued pieces of community space and green lungs, which are good for biodiversity, physical and mental health, in areas where there is a shortage of green space. Once these sites are sold, they are gone for good. Where it can be shown, a town or parish council has already undertaken consultation, proper consultation by the published deadline and applied for green open space public protection. Those sites should be removed now from the small sites list and the threat removed. The proposal is to pause the programme and make a reduction in the associated capital receipt, which is 166,667 indicated in the Breckland budget. The financial impact will be negligible in the 23-24 financial year, with a predicted income of 166,667 moved for future financial years, assuming that all those projections are carried out rather than some of those sites being removed. I can confirm that those figures have been confirmed as being viable by financial officers, and that's my proposal. Thank you, Chairman.
Can we have a seconder for this proposal? Councillor Brindle. Would you like to speak now or at the end? Any questions?
Lovely. Thanks, Chairman. Just to confirm that what's been proposed for the amendment to the budget, and I don't know the ability to do this with the monitoring officer present, was a decision this council made in October of this year, which all members, as I'm aware from the minutes of the meeting, voted in favour of. Nobody abstained or nobody voted against. I didn't think we could change a decision policy in relation to previous council business for a period of time. Just want to clarify as well that the portfolio holder had shared with all members of this council that every site for small disposals is taken on a case-by-case basis. The 166,000 is a target, and every time a piece of land comes forward for disposal, it is a piece of work which is undertaken with the local ward members and parish councils to get a full understanding before that decision is formally made. Chairman, I think that the offer is very ill-timed, because actually if the councillor has any concerns about a piece of land within his ward, he has the process which has already been shared with him and all members of this council as to how he can work with the cabinet member and the officers concerned to get the best outcome, whether that is financial or community base, for that piece of land. So therefore I won't be supporting the amendment as proposed.
In response to the question, Leader, I think you're quite right in the sense that this is an amendment to the budget. So as I read it and I understand it, the amendment is suggesting that expenditure is paused and the subsequent reduction in income is mitigated. So that's the budgetary change. There may be requisite other decisions on the back of this budget change should it be successful. But as I read it, and Councillor Clark may correct me when under the right to reply at the end, is that this is seeking to stop expenditure and mitigate for loss of income. Subsequent decisions, as you referred to enable this, might be necessary if this was approved.
Councillor Wilkinson.
It is getting long now, Chairman. I'll just refer to the first paragraph of Councillor Clark's amendment. Consultation with ward members and parish councils is happening. I can confirm that what the leader said, they are on one individual based projects, and with consultation with officers and the parish council, and I as ward member had 2 pieces of green land which was put up for auction, removed from that list. And we also had one which was sold in one area a few years ago, came up for planning last month, and the planning committee turned that application down for development. So that piece of land in that particular ward still stays as green space.
Councillor Cowan.
It's a point of clarification for me, please, Chairman, and I welcome advice from the monitoring officer. As council is aware, not also am I the portfolio holder for finance, but I'm also a director of Brecon Bridge, and I would like some guidance as to whether, I know this is related to the budget, but whether I am entitled to take part in the vote. Thank you.
I think, Councillor Gann, the safest option is there's some concern is for you to abstain for the vote on this amendment.
Councillor Monument.
Well, I appreciate Councillor Clark's concern about the small green areas that have been put on this long list. So are we all. We all have various bits to think about. I'm not actually convinced that the motion he's putting forward now, the proposal he's making, is an amendment to the budget. It seems to me that it's a completely separate proposal to stop what's going on in the process of assessing and consulting on that list. And that, to me, is not an amendment to the budget. It may have some impact on the budget, so may a lot of other things we could come up with today. But I don't think this proposal is validly an amendment to the budget we're supposed to be considering? And if somebody else says it is, well, I'm voting against it.
I understand the point that Councillor Monument's making. My reading of the amendment that's been tabled is we need to focus on the financial aspects of that amendment. On the amendments we've seen so far, there's a narrative, and within those is a budgetary change. I might ask Alison Chubbuck to confirm, but there would be financial impacts, I would understand, in terms of expenditure and reduced income should we pause Breckland Bridge work, which I'm getting a nod to. So that is what I'm understanding the amendment to be, to pause work and therefore to change the budget to reduce expenditure and reduce levels of income accordingly.
Councillor Webb.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, I totally understand the issues and the fact that people in Dereham feel that green space is needed. I get that completely. There is a process here which allows for consultation. So we as ward members should be the ones that are putting forward the objections from our residents to preserve the green spaces where we believe it needs to be kept. The process is there. It's not just we're going to buy up and ignore everybody what they say. We're listening. It's community comments, and yes, financial obligations will be looked at as well. But you know, and I know that being a strong community such as Dereham, there will be a strong back against any areas where the community feel they're needed. So all I'm saying is there's a process. The process is being done. There is consultation being done. And I believe that the process is good enough to actually get to where we want to without having to delay and pause this. Let's just get on with it, please. Thank you.
Councillor Jeremy.
Hang on, so,
I haven't spoken on this one. I know it's confusing yet. I will be supporting this amendment. I don't have the faith that Councillor Webb has in the process. As a county councillor in Thetford, I was not consulted when pieces of land have been sold. As a town councillor in Thetford, I've not been consulted. As a neighbouring councillor to a ward, for Borough Ward, I've not been consulted on other pieces of land in Thetford being sold. What I do know is that there is a significant number of residents in Thetford around Glebe Close, Vicarage Road, who are vehemently against the Breckland Bridge proposal to build on a very small piece of green land. Very much loved, very much well used. The ward members are against, the community is against, but the process carries on. Planning permission has been sought once more. I think we are making a mistake and we are rushing to sell these pieces of land across the district. And I think the point Councillor Clark made, once these sites are sold, they are gone for good. They will never come back. We have got to get this right. And I do feel that including a budget allocation for an anticipated income for this is wrong at this point. We are rushing this process. So I think Councillor Monument used the word stop. Apparently this amendment is proposing to stop something. I don't see the word stop anywhere. I see the word pause. I think it's an entirely responsible thing for this council to do, to not rush into selling these pieces of land, to ensure that there is consultation. There are plenty of examples where consultation hasn't been happening with elected members and with residents, and ensure that we are doing this properly before these pieces of land are sold. Now, I think there probably are some locations where it would be appropriate, but having seen the list, I am aghast to think that some of these locations would be lost. And you may be reassured on that side, but on this side, I am not reassured that those concerns will be listening to, which is why I will support this amendment.
Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I bring members' attention to page 78 in our agenda?
you will find that Breckland Bridge wanted to build 2 houses in Thompson. It came in front of the planning committee where most of the members I see are here. And you'll see the officers recommended approval. And if you look, 8 out of 2 refused it. So Thompson kept their green space against great annoyance to the officer, because I stood up hard against it because there were 2 lovely trees on it. So as a Conservative, we are not just getting rid of pieces of green land for housing, we are objecting to them. I've had 2 pieces in my ward that came up and they were offered to the parish council, who have decided to take them. So there is no rush to anything. If you're doing your job properly as a district councillor, you will know where they are and you will be able to sort them out, and town councils and parish councils should be able to put them in the right direction. And by the way, I was at Deerham's party, as I'll call it, with Councillor Clark last Saturday week ago to support that green space. Thank you.
Councillor Kyburn.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Germany spoke in particular about citing Glebe Close in Thetford. Now, that site wasn't on the list that he refers to. I don't know why it wasn't, but it wasn't, although it's in process. And secondly, the relevant ward members did not put that forward, that site forward under the green spaces consultation.
Councillor Atterwell.
If I can just follow up what Councillor Plummer just said. I was at the planning committee where we recently had one of these pieces of green space come before us for consideration. It was rejected by the planning committee, but in my view, it should never have got to that point, because it was clear from very strong local opposition and people who lived around there that they wanted to retain it. So I don't know whether the ward member at that time was aware of the strength of feeling, but I do question what consultation was carried out with the particular parish council, local residents and the ward member in that instance, because clearly money had been spent on a planning application. We had to sit there and deliberate on it. And it was quite clear to me that it was an appalling proposal, and that local residents definitely did not support the loss of that green space. So I support this motion.
Councillor Borrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Interesting to listen to Councillor Jeremy, because he says he doesn't want to stop the process, he just wants to pause it. But he has no faith in the process. So I'm not quite sure, and I wrote down, I have no faith in the process, so therefore I'm going to vote for this motion. So I'm not sure if, to be honest, that this particular motion as it stands is going to change anything, Councillor Jeremy, because the process is not changing. The process is just being delayed, as you very eloquently said. It's not to be stopped. So other members have spoken in the success of the process, and obviously there are bits of land in my ward as well, so which I'm well aware about. The word rush, this process is taking forever. This isn't a last minute proposal. This has been going on for years. So it isn't in a rush. Pushing it into next year doesn't change anything. And the process, as other members have very eloquently outlined, is going forward properly. And you know, some of the bits of land in my ward, I personally been talking with the council for 4 or 5 years. So this isn't a sudden shock to anybody. The land is still protected under any designation. And when they said the land is lost, the land is still there. It's still protected against use that would be illegal or unpleasant by planning regulations and the good folk on the planning committees they've just demonstrated here. So I think that this is really a non-motion, and we should vote against it and get on with the business of passing the budget, because that's a really important piece of work here today, because if we don't do that, we won't be able to provide any services to the good people of Breckland.
Councillor Bambridge.
Much of what I was going to say has been said by Councillor Borrett. This is a process that's been going on for years. I can't tell you how many, and he just said 5 years, and it is at least that, and probably more. There are bits of land that Breckland own all over the district. I did once know how many thousand there were, but there are many thousands of pieces of land, and it's right that we should sort out whether they can be built on or not, whether they should remain green space or not, or whether they can bring advantage to a neighbour. I see there was one a week or so ago that went through as a off-road parking space, which we've all got to be, I think, somewhat in favour of. So that's the reason why I would not be voting in support of this motion.
Councillor Nunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't going to speak, but as it's gone on for so long, I figure I may as well indulge myself. I think I was the portfolio holder, or possibly even the leader, that put this process in place. Probably was about 15 years ago. I can't remember who was with me, but either way, the process was done to deliver a lot of the stuff that the opposition councillors seemingly want to do. We, as a council, understood that we owned, I think it was at that time, thousands of small pieces of land. Some were community interest pieces, some were definitely just redundant pieces of land which have been built on over the years with absolutely no objections. Every time the ward council has been engaged, involved, the local community has been engaged, involved. Sometimes the council has deemed to gift them to the community, sometimes it's sold them. But every time, regardless of where, that money has come back in the pot to deliver all of the projects, everyone keeps asking for us to deliver. And it seems that you want us to stop doing most things that earn us money while spending more money, which I suppose doesn't surprise me, because that does seem to be the way. But I think we have to be realistic. We do need to rationalize our assets. We constantly need to review these things. Our officers spend reams of time dealing with these little pieces of land to no real avail. So I support moving forward. I reject this motion. I think we encourage our officers to deal with these pieces of land as swiftly as they can. It's already taken 15 years and it'll probably take another 15. I feel sorry for you, Ralph, but you and your team do an excellent job. It is difficult, but to understand what these pieces of land are worth, we have to go through a process. We can't guess. Occasionally we put in for planning on a piece of land, again, to understand its true value to the council. And then we make a choice. We make a choice whether we develop it, whether we gift it to a community, or whether we sell it. Each time we have to do that to get best value for this council. I'm sure if we didn't, I'd hear our opposition members complaining that we're wasting our time, we're giving away things, etc., etc. So I know we can't win, and I know it's election time, and I know this is going to go on for some while longer, because of course you want to get lots of Twitter feeds, but I do hope you can swiftly resolve the debate.
Oh, no, Councillor Dowling.
Councillor Dowling.
I would just like to reply to some of those comments that whilst I agree with a lot of things, that each piece of land has to be looked at for its individual merits and where it is, but something that wasn't around 15 years ago was the importance of preserving our green spaces. And I think that has got lost somehow in the argument. It's not about people wasting time discussing it, but people who live in those areas, those green spaces are incredibly important to them. And it's not just about what the land's worth, it's about what it means to that community. And I think that needs to be taken into account as well. Thank you.
Councillor Duffield.
I hate to prolong this debate, but just Councillor Darren's statement, let's correct her on that. All parish councils were contacted with regard to whether they want spaces put within the protected area. And this has been done in every parish. So if you were involved in the parish and went to parish council meetings, you would have known that.
Councillor Brindle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there have been one or two wider issues have been raised in an attempt to discredit this this amendment. No one's against reviewing. The question is whether pause means stop. It doesn't. What we're asking for in this amendment is the most thorough consultation possible that gives people a chance to reflect on the long-term value of losing land forever. As my colleague has just said, opinions may change over the years. People may value much more spaces which they didn't perhaps value enough in the past. And I'd like to spend a moment, if I may, just talking about one example of that. It's kind of generic, but it's a place called Glebe Close in Thetford. It's a strange A-shaped road, which is bottled in on the two major sides of the A by major roads, which are inaccessible from the road. There's a small exit on the third side, which leads immediately to a major road. So good access for people who want to live there and work somewhere else. They can drive very close. The great thing about the area is that it is actually quite a safe place for children to play. They can't play on the road, there's too many cars. They certainly can't put a ball anywhere near a road. There is luckily a piece of land on that, it's almost like a little mini estate where children can play. It's big enough for the sort of ball sports that most children want to play a lot of the time. It's very conveniently placed for young families. 3-bed terraced houses, which are good starter houses. It's very near a school. I've said it's near access to busy roads, to major roads to get off to work. So it's ideal for young families. And the children of those young families need a space to play. If that space is taken away, I would ask you, where do the children go? They have to go off the area and risk crossing a major road to get to anything else that's a large enough site to play, even a site half the size of this room. So please, what we're asking for with this amendment is the most careful possible consultation, the most thorough possible consultation. I cannot overstress the fact that if you sell a piece of land, it's gone forever. It never comes back. We have bitterly to regret some past mistakes have been made, particularly in my town, along the wonderful rivers we have. You never get that land back. Let's not make mistakes. We need to be incredibly cautious about selling any piece of land that may have a use or definitely has, according to local residents, got a use. So what we're saying is, can we please pause and think and make sure that the residents feel they've been totally listened to? And not only a question of saying to the parish council, you can talk about it, but actually we will listen to what you say. So I'm asking you, please, to vote for this amendment, not to vote for developers, but to vote for children. Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you for councillor colleagues for your contributions. I'll just make some observations summing up at the end here, not in any particular order. References made to Twitter and social media, obviously, which is some use and some don't. I can say I'm a great believer in actually talking to people and listening to people and asking them their views. Unlike me to blow my own trumpet, but it happens in my ward, 7 sites affected in my ward. I went door to door, identifying sites potentially which might be developed or sold off, and asked people what they wanted to happen to them, and not only in that immediate area, but also around that. And that's encompassed several hundred residents of all ages. Some people who'd lived there for years, they wanted accessible nearby places where they could watch the children play. And the key thing that people stressed was it being a public open green space. I'm sorry I didn't notice Councillor Plummer at my so-called party. It was actually 61 residents at this rally organised, and a lot of residents were actually there from some of the other sites. With regard to the leader's comments about the decision about Brecon Bridge last October, I wasn't there, but I think most opposition councillors happened to vote against that particular proposal. I would have done had I been there. Picking up a comment from Councillor Atterwell regarding the Thompson application, in some ways I regard that as a failure of the process. Something's going to depend upon the ability of the parish council and ward members to get involved, and people to spot things sometimes at the last minute. The officers had recommended selling off this space despite the opposition of the parish council, and as it happened on that occasion, the members overall of the planning committee, in my view, saw sense, but that may not always happen. I don't think the consultation, as I said, is particularly robust or in depth, and I very much hope people will take these comments on board in the spirit they're intended, and I wish everybody success in their own individual wards. Thank you.
We're now going to move forward to the vote, which will be recorded. Thank you.
Councillor Ashby. Councillor Askew. Councillor Atterwell. Councillor Bambridge. Councillor Burt. Councillor Borrett. Councillor Bowes. Councillor Brindle. Councillor Bushell. Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen. Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen. Councillor Clark. Councillor Clausen. Councillor Cowan.
The very first time I'm abstaining.
Oh, yes. Councillor Crane. Councillor Dale. Councillor Dowling. Councillor Duffield. Councillor Dygan. Councillor James. Councillor Jermy. Councillor Cadell. Councillor Kybird. Councillor Land. Councillor Martin. Councillor Monument. Councillor Morton. Councillor Nairn. Councillor Nunn. Councillor Plummer. Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Suggett. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Terry. Councillor Turner. Councillor Webb. Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Wilkin. And Councillor Wilkinson.
That amendment is defeated. We now. Councillor Mawson.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a proposal for an amendment. If it could be put forward on the screen as well.
Carry on, please.
Thank you, Chairman. When I first joined council nearly 4 years ago, I was surprised to learn that Breckland had no housing units of its own to support the commitments placed upon it by central government. To be wholly reliant on housing associations and private landlords seemed a weak position open to abuse in terms of condition of the properties and prices charged. Since then, the extraordinary circumstances of COVID, Afghanistan and the Ukraine war have placed an increasing burden on our housing team. These external factors are now being exacerbated by the cost of living crisis that is pushing even working families to food banks and possibly being unable to pay rent and higher energy bills. Given this background, the rise in demand for temporary and emergency accommodation is not likely to decrease and in all probability will accelerate. This means the costs to council, which are already significant, will continue to rise. Temporary housing accommodation provided by private landlords and housing associations incurs a revenue cost and to date has not provided a viable market solution to the problem. Therefore, I'm pleased to see that there has been a positive response to the housing problem at Thetford and Dereham by the construction and purchase of housing units. The use of capital to purchase these units will help to reduce revenue costs in future, in addition to providing housing units of good quality that can be monitored and maintained properly. This approach should be widened to consider individual pods or converted containers that could be used on small rural sites. I propose that £1 million of anticipated capital receipts is budgeted to facilitate this service to purchase new units elsewhere in the district. These new units will bring in revenue funds in the future through rents, leading to a nil overall cost position, and the reduction in revenue costs for temporary accommodation is likely to be around £16,000 per person per year, approximately £100,000. So I put this forward as a proposal amendment.
Can we have a seconder? Councillor Attaway. Do you want to speak now or later? Any questions?
Thank you, Chair. Well, as you've seen from this, it's a neutral overall cost position. So how on earth could anybody vote against this? It's providing services, which is exactly what councils are here to do. And it's not going to cost us anything in the long term. Clearly there's an upfront cost, but we recoup the money. So I will be supporting this because it's blindingly obvious that's the right thing to do.
Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you, Chairman. Strangely, this is like an amendment I tabled about 8 or 9 years ago, when I couldn't understand then why, as a district, we didn't have a more active role in housing, particularly as then it was an ever-increasing revenue cost to this council. And it has been a huge cost over the last few years and likely to grow even further. I mean, who could have predicted cost of living crisis and continuing government cuts sort of fueling that demand? I only wish we'd have acted on this 8 years ago when house prices were significantly less than they are now. We could have got significantly more units for our money. But that said, I think there was an awful lot of sense in this proposal. In a similar way to the previous amendment spoke about buying shop units, if we are buying houses that we have the control over to help with our housing waiting list and the significant costs that we're incurring from a revenue point of view, in a few years' time, this will help eat into the deficit that is predicted in the revenue budget by driving down those costs whilst we still own the capital asset. We're in a very fortunate position, I suppose, to having the capital available in the next financial year. So let's spend it on something that will make a significant difference to our residents, providing them with good quality homes, dare I say carbon neutral homes too, and actually make a decision that will impact for years to come on our revenue budget, reducing that long-term gap. So I think it's perfectly sensible and I will be voting for it.
Councillor Bambridge.
Well, it's interesting that this comes up as an amendment to the budget because this is a policy that we already pursue. Have members not heard of Elm Road and the 2 projects going on there? Have members not heard of Quarry Court and the projects that is going on there? Did they not remember that even in this meeting, we proposed to spend an amount of money to provide housing for homeless people in our district or the potential of it. So I can't support an amendment to something that's already happening within this council and has been happening in this council, and I hope will actually continue to happen in this council. We are a council that continually look at housing, look at strategy for housing, look at where houses come from and where they go to. And the decision was made for us not to be a stockholder way before I was ever elected, and I've been sitting on this council for 20 years.
Councillor Attawell.
Thank you. I fully support this amendment. Again, I'm going to refer to the recent levelling up bid. Breckland does seem to have some inherent problems, and this is data that Breckland has secured through its consultants. So I'll just read you this one piece. The impact of Breckland's weak economy is exacerbated by the limited ability of residents to break out of the deprivation cycle. Breckland sits within a social mobility cold spot, ranking 306 out of 324 local authorities in terms of the ability for disadvantaged residents to succeed. For adults, Breckland's ranking is even worse, placing 318th out of 324. And I have to say to Councillor Bambridge, if you've been here for 20 years, why are we in that situation? I hear what you're saying about Elm Road. I fully support the Elm Road. I think it's a great project, but I think actually what we're looking to do with that is that'll probably help about 35 people at the moment. We have a very significant problem. I'm grateful to officers who provided me with the figures. So in this current financial year, so far on temporary accommodation, after housing benefits have been reclaimed, this council has so far spent £1,114,780. Last financial year, it was £734,100, which leads me to believe that the problem is getting much worse. And I think what we're doing with this amendment is saying we have funds available through capital receipt. I look forward to the executive. At the moment, I will give you an example of where this money can be found. This council is looking to sell, in the process of trying to sell, a very significant asset, probably its largest asset. I look forward to the executive coming to this chamber and confirming to me after that sale is carried out that it has realised the full capital outlay. So whatever we outlaid in capital for that project originally, inflation linked, so that we have maximised our money out of that asset through that capital receipt, so that we can put that into projects such as this. But even with what we have in the budget at the moment, I think this is very affordable. I applaud what you're trying to do at the moment, but it's simply not enough. We need to tackle this problem. The figures don't lie. It's telling us that there is a significant problem here in Breckland. It's money that we are pouring out, paying for hotels, bed and breakfast, etc. We've got no control over that accommodation, really. If we had our own accommodation, we would own the asset, and then we would realise rents on that in the future. So to me, that makes sense. If I think again, what I said earlier on is about how this looks to the general public. What are we for? Are we for golf clubs or are we for helping people? And I think we've sorted the golf club issue. Hopefully,
Can you wind up,
we can now use this money to do some real good for people in need in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're all agreed on the direction of policy, just differ on the sense of urgency. And I think because it's so cost neutral, in fact, maybe positive, we should all be behind adopting this motion.
We will now move to a recorded vote.
Councillor Askew. Councillor Attawell. Councillor Bambridge. Councillor Burt. Councillor Borrett. Councillor Bowes. Councillor Brindle. Councillor Bushell. Councillor Marion Chapman Allen. Councillor Sam Chapman Allen, Councillor Clark, Councillor Clowson, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Crane, Councillor Dale, Councillor Dowling, Councillor Duffield, Councillor Dygan, Councillor James, Councillor Jeremy, Councillor Cadell, Councillor Kybird, Councillor Land, Councillor Martin, Councillor Monument, Councillor Morton, Councillor Nairn, Councillor Nunn, Councillor Plummer, Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Suggett, Councillor Terry, Councillor Turner, Councillor Webb, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Wilkin, Councillor Wilkinson.
That motion is defeated. Councillor Burt.
The mic has returned. Well, there are 10 of us on the opposition side. Julie, please could you put up proposed amendment number 5?
Councillor Nunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I figured this was going to go on for some time, so I just asked that the chairman considers actually no breaking for lunch and reconvening the meeting in 45 minutes' time.
Councillor Asma.
Chairman, I think probably it's fair to say this is the last amendment, and I think it would be a good idea to get this one done. And at that point, we can take a vote on the main motion and clear up this budget issue. And then that would probably be a convenient time to break for lunch. I think, as I said, this is the last one. And I think we should get through that, and then that would be a good place to stop.
Councillor Duffield.
Yeah, could I ask then, in view of the time and people need other things to do, that we have the amendment and not have a prolonged session around the other 9 people to try and, you know, hold us until we fall asleep, and we take a vote on it after the amendment is read out, please.
Well, no, we'll go forward with this amendment. Councillor Burt.
Thank you, Chairman. So with the cost of living crisis continuing to hit many Breckland residents, it's proposed that we use just some of the windfall income from a change in the amount of business rates passed to this council in order to set a 0 council tax increase for the coming year. The cost of this would be just £227,000, which is less than half the cost of the windfall income we're due to receive. The windfall income increases by another 1 million the following year, so there is no risk to any Breckland plans or projects. Now, every day there are reports of more people struggling with the cost of living crisis. And the year ahead is likely to become harder as food prices continue to rise and the current energy price cap ends. Previous Prime Minister of this country spoke about helping those who are just about managing, or jams as they became known. Well, they really need help now, and this is our time to do our small bit. Council tax has risen by near the maximum permitted for the last few years, and now, in this time of crisis, we should use those previous above inflation rises to buffer our residents from the current situation, and at the same time, in a tiny way, help reduce the inflation rate. Now, the £227,000 has been checked by the Section 151 officer, and it matches the tax base figure that you'll see quoted on page 251 of the agenda. Now, I keep being told that Tory members are a low tax party. Well, here's your opportunity to prove it. And there's a bonus for Councillor Cowan, in that if Great Yarmouth increase their precept, he might legitimately be able to claim that residents of Breckland pay the least council tax in Norfolk. And he wouldn't need to selectively hide town and parish precepts from the calculation. Now, wouldn't that be a feather in your cap, Councillor Cowan? I commend this motion to the council.
Can we have a seconder, please? Councillor Jeremy, do you want to speak now or later?
Thank you, Chairman. In the spirit of the need for lunch, I'm not anticipating any other speakers, so I'm happy to speak now. Quite simply, Breckland Council is in a relatively strong financial position. I'm very pleased about that, and I commend everybody that has helped to achieve that. We have had, for this forthcoming budget, a number of sums of money deemed as a windfall. Fantastic news, and we're all really pleased about. But we have seen over the course of today how opportunities to spend that money to address some of the very serious challenges in our district have been voted down. What we're left with is a budget that actually puts significant sums of money into reserves rather than dealing with those challenges. Quite simply, we do not need at this moment in time to put council tax up by the maximum possible. Just half of the windfall that we're receiving in the next financial year would enable us to have a zero council tax increase, let alone any future years' income. So there is an opportunity before you to vote for that 0% council tax increase by allowing that £227,000 to be taken from the windfall funding that's been received. So I formally second, Chairman.
Has anybody got any questions?
Comments?
Thanks, Chairman. Just for a bit of clarity, and I'm at no point would want to think that the member who placed his proposal and spoke to the 151 didn't quite have the figures to hand, but I'm concerned, Chairman, that the figures quoted on the screen are misleading. The reason is that if we made a council tax freeze this year, that is a loss year on year on year. So year one, if we were to freeze council tax, would be 244,661p. If we then next year, and it's the decision of the council, increase to the 3%, we would still have a deficit next year of £467,000, 277. And then if we continued again, that same amount is an occurring efficiency we would have to find in this budget. So far, Chairman, through capital expenditure, we've spent £2.35 million on a receipt we haven't yet got. We are legally obliged to place that capital receipt because we have had an offer, but we've made decisions today for amendments of spending money we haven't got. And today we're making an amendment in which it will cost this council a further £500,000 in revenue. And I'm not understanding where that efficiency is coming from elsewhere in the budget. It's all very well for members from a sedentary position to make amendment proposals, and I acknowledge that they're not in the ruling group, but that then becomes a challenge of how I then cut my cloth accordingly. And for me to find an extra £500,000 within 2 years on top of my Evolve programme I already have, I'm afraid isn't appropriate. You've heard today the hardship fund we offer to residents through the local council tax scheme. You've heard the proposals in the amendment to increase that further through the government grants and our own allocation. I think that the discretion piece we've already offered and the ability to do that further through our Inspiring Communities and our hardship fund will ensure that money goes to those people who need it most, as we have continued to do. 8,000 households currently receive a council tax reduction of some form. And I absolutely acknowledge that everybody across the country is feeling the hardship. And I think we all appreciate that. However, we must ensure that we're able to continue to provide all of those services for 100% of our residents, supporting 100% of those who may or may not be in need. And therefore, Chairman, I think the figures quoted are misinformed because it isn't a single figure, that is a recurring figure up to the value of just under £500,000.
Councillor Attawell.
Could I have some clarification, please? Because I'm somewhat confused, because looking at the budget, the money is in there for what we're looking to realise from the sale of said asset. So therefore, that money is in the budget. Therefore, surely it's appropriate for us to sit here as opposition, if we wish, to table an amendment to spend some of those proceeds. So you can't have it both ways. I think what you're saying, Sam, is yes, we might realise an asset, but we've got it in the budget anyway, but you can't decide what it's going to be spent on. Could I just have some clarity on that from officers, please?
Thank you. And the capital receipt is in the programme, as you know. Everything that has been approved to be spent against that so far has a mitigation in case the receipt is not received. So it wouldn't be wise to approve anything without that mitigation in place.
Councillor Burt.
Well, we've failed to provide the extra that those most in need have wanted, require for the rejection of the previous amendments. In the spirit of brevity, all I'm going to say is that we can afford this, it will help, and I commend it to the council.
We now move forward to the recorded vote.
Councillor Askew, Councillor Attawell, Councillor Bambridge, Councillor Burt, Councillor Borrett, Councillor Bowes, Councillor Brindle, Councillor Bushell, Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen, Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen, Councillor Clark, Councillor Clausen, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Crane, Councillor Dale, Councillor Dowling, Councillor Duffield, Councillor Dygan, Councillor James, Councillor Jermy, Councillor Kiddell, Councillor Kybird, Councillor Land, Councillor Martin, Councillor Monument, Councillor Morton, Councillor Nairn, Councillor Nunn, Councillor Plummer, Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Suckett, Councillor Terry, Councillor Turner, Councillor Webb, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Wilkin, and Councillor Wilkinson.
The motion is defeated. I then move back forward to the original recommendations under item 12. I propose at this time that we take a block vote on all 9. It will be a recorded vote, so can we have a show of hands of those in favour? On block. Right. It will be a recorded vote. Thank you, Julie.
Councillor Askew, Councillor Attawell, Councillor Bambridge, Councillor Burt, Councillor Borrett, Councillor Bowes, Councillor Brindle, Councillor Bushell, Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen, Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen, Councillor Clark, Councillor Clausen, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Crane, Councillor Dale, Councillor Dowling, Councillor Duffield, Councillor Dygan, Councillor James, Councillor Jeremy, Councillor Cadell, Councillor Kybird, Councillor Land, Councillor Martin, Councillor Monument, Councillor Morton, Councillor Nairn,
Against. Sorry for. So used to saying the wrong word.
Councillor Nunn, Councillor Plummer, Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Suggett, Councillor Terry, Councillor Turner, Councillor Webb, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Wilkin, and Councillor Wilkinson.
If I may, Chairman, can I just clarify earlier to Councillor Burt's point, if we could all remember that point where the appendices page numbers were referenced. So just for reference, it's Appendix G was pages 234 to 247, Appendix H 248 to 249. It doesn't affect anything that's just been voted on. I'm just providing that information for clarity.
The recommendations have been approved. What I'm going to propose now is that we take item 13 and then we break for lunch. So Councillor Cowan, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This, I think, will be brief. Following the earlier presentation, agenda item 12, the budget, we are now charged to set the amount of council tax applicable for 23-24 for each valuation band and in each part of the district. And the papers before us reflect on the decisions reached by the Police and Crime Commissioner, Norfolk County Council in setting their precept and council tax level respectively, and Breckland Cabinet's resolution at the 6th of February Cabinet meeting. In addition, the commentary sets out the special expenses and the resolutions that are utilised in the various calculations behind the council tax setting process. And if you have technical questions in this regard, we'll endeavour to furnish you with an appropriate response. The appendices set out the following: Appendix A, the tax base; B, Breckland plus parishes band D, 23-24; C, Breckland plus parish council tax rates, 23-24, all bands; Appendix D, all council tax rates for the year 23-24, and then Appendix C, the council tax resolution definitions. And the recommendations before us today are: 1, that the full council approve the special expenses for the year 23-24 at paragraph 1.3. And number 2, that full council approves the formal council tax resolutions for the year 23-24 at paragraph 141 to 145. Thank you, Chairman.
Can we have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Kybird. Any questions? Councillor Burt.
Well, fairly obviously, on the basis that a proposal was put forward for a 0 council tax rise, and then this one is actually going back to the £4.95 rise, I'll be voting against this.
We'll then move forward to the vote, which will be a recorded vote.
Councillor Askew, Councillor Atterwill, Councillor Bambridge, Councillor Burt, Councillor Borrett, Councillor Bowes, Councillor Brindle, Councillor Bushell, Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen, Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen, Councillor Clark, Councillor Clausen, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Crane, Councillor Dale, Councillor Dowling, Councillor Duffield, Councillor Dygan, Councillor James, Councillor Jeremy, Councillor Cadell, Councillor Kybird, Councillor Land, Councillor Martin, Councillor Monument, Councillor Morton, Councillor Nairn, Councillor Nunn, Councillor Plummer. Oh, four. Is that okay to take that? No. Okay. Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Suggett, Councillor Terry, Councillor Turner, Councillor Webb, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Wilkin, and Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. The recommendations have been approved. I have conferred with people alongside me, and they suggest we actually crack on. We've only got one more moderately substantive item to deal with, and then we will be able to finish or conclude the meeting shortly after. Right. Item 14. Sarah Wilson, Legal Services Manager, to present the report, which can be found on pages 266 to 289 of the agenda pack.
Thank you. You have the report in front of you. That report has previously been through the Governance and Audit Committee, so you can see their recommendations. The current code of conduct has been in place since March 27. We are proposing that we adopt the local government association's model of code of conduct for a number of reasons. That it is well set out and it is reasonably straightforward and easy to follow, and it will put us in line with other local authorities within the Norfolk area. The recommendations are therefore as follows: that following a recommendation from Governance and Audit, Council adopts a revised Members' Code of Conduct, a new Code of Conduct to come into effect from the 9th of May 2023, and the Council's Constitution be amended accordingly from the 9th of May 2023.
Could I have a proposer and a seconder? Jane James, Councillor Borwick. All in favour?
Any questions?
Sorry, any questions? I'm trying to get through this. All in, any questions? Councillor Bird.
Thank you. I better raise one question since we've actually got this part of the agenda now. So this isn't perfect, but I definitely support the good while searching for the perfect. And this is far better than our existing policy, which is in our constitution at the moment. I suggest that we definitely should accept this now. And there is an opportunity at a later stage to add and refine to this, adding things which have been raised before on things like predetermination, which is not specified in the document. Oh, it's a comment. On that basis, I think that we should accept this and adopt it into our constitution. It's been a long time coming, and it does update the Nolan principles, which have been out of date since 2014 in our constitution. So I'm very much in favour of that.
Right, move forward to the vote. All in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. These recommendations have been approved. Item 15, nominations, committees and other seats.
Chairman, thank you. Yes, all the nominations are for General Purposes Committee. Tristan Ashby to become Vice Chairman, Phil Dargan to become a full member, and Taylor to be our substitute member. Thank you, Chairman. That's it.
Terry? Roger? Tim?
No changes.
Thank you. Any amendments to the Constitution? There are. We've dealt with that. And I have no other urgent items. And before I close the meeting, I'd like to thank everyone who has taken time to watch the meeting. Via YouTube, and remind members to remain in the room if they wish for the informal briefing, which will take place immediately after the meeting has been closed. Well, after we've had some lunch. So thank you. This meeting is